Okay, welcome to my first little tutorial on how I do some digital illustration. These are a few tricks of the trade that I've been playing with Photoshop, so hopefully you'll enjoy this or get something out of it. This is a picture I did called Rising Sun, and this was a model named Lux. It was awesome to work with. So this is kind of the final image here, so I'm going to show you some of the things that I did. So kind of starting from scratch. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to turn off my signature. That's just on a separate layer. That's the last thing I did. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. So I started with a gray background. And then if I scroll down here, you'll see that I started then with a picture of the model. And with this layer, you can see that I can move it all around. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. Sorry about that. Let's undo that. So back to this layer. You can see that I can move her around at this point. So it's and basically the way I got her cut out on here is by masking. So if you don't know what masking is, I'll probably cover that somewhere else. But this was just so I could get a cut out of her. And then what I wanted to do next was to draw and kind of do a little bit of a trace as a starting point. I would be able to draw her from scratch if I wanted to, but at this point I just wanted to get the gist of it. So here's what I did. Basically take a window, arrange, and if you go down here to do a new window, this gives you two windows here, right, of the same thing. I'm able to move the one over here. Okay, so now I have two of them. And then the next thing I do is maybe, let's see if I can find it. So right there is the trace. So you can see that I just drew this in. So at some point I had this lined up so that it was right over her, and there I copied it and got the outline the way I wanted it. But obviously I didn't want to take the photo in. I wanted to paint that. So what I did next was move this out of the way, and maybe I moved it right here. I can't remember for sure, but I think I moved it right here. And then to paint the face, what I did is came up with some, let me find the right layer to show you the blotches of color that I get. Right there they are. I came up with blotches of color. So the way I did that basically was to take this image and zoom in. Let's see here. Zoom into the face and had my paints ready there. So there's all the colors that I kind of started with. I made little blotches of them and smeared them around. And then on this screen, what I was able to do is click over here and zoom in on the face so that I had my go by. So this is kind of like just, in drawing or painting, having a picture nearby, and then if you get these to the same zoom, you're kind of just doing one-to-one and just trying to take your picture. So theirs was basically the start of it, and I guess I had a little bigger because I had the drawing there. And here you'll see, let me just go ahead and jump down to this to show you, there's the painted version up close. So as you can see, it wasn't perfect for sure. I drew this sword on the wrong layer. But you can see the sword's much more detailed, but I just kind of did some dots to get the gist of it. And you can definitely see it's not just a copy of the photo, so I kind of wanted that painterly look. You can see the hairs kind of gave the indication of it, but not necessarily the specifics. I gave her a little bit more of a wind wispy look there in this portion of it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this one, and we're going to zoom back out so you can kind of see side by side And if I zoom into any part of it, you'll see, you kind of be able to compare what the photo was, you know, with the details and all that. And I didn't like the sword sheath being on the front, so you'll see that I did that separately. I'll just kind of scroll in so you can see all of the painting here. There's the shoe. Shoe was kind of fun. And I guess you can't really see your shoe that well because it's underneath there. And then there was one other layer to give this shimmer of these sequins, and I put that on a separate layer so I could kind of, oops, that's not it. I think it's this one. Yeah, so you can see I just kind of did a spray pattern there, and then highlighted it and had some darkened areas so it kind of matched the flow of the fabric. And then, like I said, when I did the sheath, I think I put it in just at this angle because I just kind of like that angle a little better. And then you can see that I was able to turn the splotches off and turn the model off. Oops, that's the painting. Turn the model off. So now you're kind of looking at just the image of the model. So now I had full reign of what I could do. By the way, I was going to show you, I guess, the here's the actual photo. I'll drag this up to the top just so you can see this. Let's put it right there. Oh, it's not going to let me because it's, I guess, locked down there. So I'm going to turn, leave those three off. And now if I turn this gray background off, you'll see there's actually just a photo that I started with of her in the studio. By the way, this was shot, I think this was a 3-light setup where I had obviously a red gel on a light kind of from almost 45 degrees behind her so that it gave that red cast on that side. And then I had another light that was really soft on this side. I think actually it was maybe towards the front, if I remember. I think this might have been a 2-light setup now that I think about it. See how soft the shadow is on this side? Oh, okay. Now I see. Right here's the harsher shadow. So I did have one more light coming from this direction. And I was shooting with alien bees for the light sources. And I had a paper backdrop so you can see there's no line there, although I took the whole background out anyway. But that's how that started. And then let's see, there was another version of this I did at one point where there's where I added some hair to her the first time. And let's see if you can see that a little better so you can see what a difference it makes. You know, just adding hair and blowing hair in Photoshop. So you can see I just added the red that's intense, like the red that's on her face, and some black, and made it a little bit wispy. And then this was the first background that I did when I just first wanted to get this online, but I didn't like this one. I wanted to put a real background to it. So that's when we came up with an idea that I kind of wanted to do her on the water with this kind of structure in the background. So that was the photo reference that I used for it. And then here's the way I ended up drawing it, and it's pretty. Let's see if I can show you. The goal was not to make this the feature, so I didn't get very detailed with it at all. You'll see that it's kind of left wispy if you look up close at it. I didn't want this to draw too much attention away from the main focus. Obviously the water, let's see if I can show you how we developed this. There was a sky. I kind of wanted a pink sky, just got a red basically to match her outfit. So there you can see where I had the horizon kind of fade to white in the distance, and then darker pink in the sky. And there's where I kind of added so you see the horizon with this one before, and then this would have been the water. And then to kind of define the mountains, I just started painting those at the horizon. You can see it's pretty sloppy and not meant to be too clear. I did go back and add like a closer level, so the farther mountains are really soft and hazy, and the closer ones are a little bit darker. Then of course I wanted to put a little haze on the water, so there you can kind of see the sky developing. Next thing was to start throwing some ripples in the water. So there's the ripples from the structure. I guess that has a name. I should know what it is. And then real quickly on the background, I wanted a rising sun from the flag. So there's the I basically just drew a circle and then drew some beams out from it. And if you can see here, the colors are all solid red, but I masked out the bottom and then faded it at the top here, so you can see that just with masking, that's how I made the rays of the sun kind of fade into the sky. And of course, there's what the reflections would have been. Actually, it looks like I moved it at some point. But I wanted to make them wavy in the water, so that's the first step, and then this is after I added some wave to them. So there's kind of the background developing. I did have to have something for her to be standing on in the water, since she wasn't going to be just floating in midair. So I came up with this idea for just a rock kind of standing out of there. You zoom in, you can see this. Once again, I think when you look at the overall picture, it's you don't look at it as being very photographic, but I kind of wanted to show that it's got some moss hanging off of it. Wanted to introduce some colors to it, but not have it be, you see, they just use some stamping tools here. Could have made this more realistic, photorealistic if I wanted, but like I said, I think the bottom line is I think most people looked at this picture and thought it was just photo manipulation anyhow, and don't realize that most of this stuff was drawn. I added a few more things, like there's just some shadowing in the water so that you can see the reflection of that element. A little bit more haze I added to the overall thing there. And this layer I don't see doing anything, so bear with me while I zoom out and see if I see anything pop up. You should always name your layers. Oh, it's a little black dot there for some reason. Have no idea what that's for. We'll leave that turned off. And now it's time to turn our model back on. So there was, that's basically the process of going through it. Now I did run it through, I used Nik filters down here. And at this point I'm probably not going to remember which filter I used. Let's see if I can get this to fill the screen right. Go right there. All of these layers I think we talked about. So here was, I guess I did add the sword in here before we did this. There was the sparkle on the dress. There's the sword added in. That was my color swatches. That was the first attempt at drawing the face. And there's the drawing over it. See, I didn't do the hair exactly like that. And then this looks like I did mostly just a gradient, a neutral density gradient at the bottom to do that one, to make that darker. And then it looks like my last part was to sign it. And that's kind of the steps to get through there. I did have this was going to be used for a unexpected art gallery thing with the Phoenix Sci-Fi Art Fantasy Expo, which ended up changing names and didn't happen, so they never used this. So that's in there, but didn't end up getting used except for some Facebook things. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please feel free to write in the comments, and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Visit my Patreon if you like these kind of things. I'm going to put a few more of them over there as time goes by. And thanks for watching. Take care. Talk to you soon.